Hello founders and welcome back to my new video. In this video, I want to discuss the aspects which make the Indian consumer market unique. Now, irrespective of whether you are a B2C company or a B2C startup or a B2B startup, understanding the uniqueness of the Indian market, it's important to understand for growth and scaling of your business. So even all the big brands, right? All the consumer brands, all the service brands, uh, in all the strategic planning which is done for their sales, marketing, operations, growth, the differences in the Indian consumer market on the aspects which I will discuss in this video, all of them use or consider it's all these factors are kept in the consideration while doing the strategic planning of any kind when talking about growing their business in India. So let's start with these aspects right away. The first aspect is geography. Now, India is a vast country. We have different kind of climates. We have different kind of topography. We have hills. We have the plains. We have mountain area. We have beaches. We have the marshy areas, so on and so forth. We have a wide expanse of a country. So now this wide this vast geography and the different regional climates which we have, it gives rise to different consumer demand and different consumption patterns. So for example, if I talk about the apparel industry, let's take the example of apparel industry. The kind of consumption, or let's say even let's narrow it down to say woolen clothes. The demand for woolen clothes which you will have in say the northern part of the country would be different, would be higher than the remaining areas, right? And even within north, the kind of woolen clothing or the kind of winter clothing you wear in say Delhi, Punjab or Haryana is different from maybe what you wear in Himachal and Uttarakhand. So uh, just an example of apparels to make you understand that how different the consumption patterns become because of the difference in geography, climate, etc. Next aspect, which is in a way interlinked with uh, geography, because over the years, over the generations, the kind of external climate, the kind of external place which we live in, the culture, the rituals, the living pattern behavior of the customers gets impacted by those external factors. And so in a way I would say that these two aspects are interlinked, right? So how do you so let's understand regional culture influence also with an example. So let's take maybe food industry example, right? So the consumption patterns which we have for, or consumption preferences which we have in different regions for food is different, right? Maybe let's take example of food made out of fermented flour, right? So dosa or idli. Of course, we get everything everywhere now, but inherently these dishes which are made with fermented flour and ferment because of the high humidity and high temperatures which we always have in south, right? They gave rise to these kind of food preferences, right? And similarly, I think people from whatever region they belong to, they know that the kind of food which is consumed in those areas, why it is consumed. So why I'm using this example is that whenever you are thinking about a new product or a service, and you are maybe in that phase of uh, doing research for the validity of your idea, or maybe you have already proved your MVP in one state, in one city, and now you're thinking about scaling. How do you go about growing your and taking your product to different regions of the country? So having a broad understanding of how exactly the consumers behave there and what's the consumption out which is arising out of these two meta points, it just helps you get a grasp on uh, the kind of planning and the kind of demand or sales you should be expecting from those areas. Moving on to third aspect, demographics. So when we talk about demographics, we mostly talk about the age of the consumer, their gender, their monthly personal income level, where they are living, right? So all these quantifiable factors which help you identify a consumer. So those are demographics. So again, uh, different products and services, they are made when, I mean, you think about them, which demographic segment you want to target, right? So now why India is unique in terms of demographics, again, because while we know that story that most of the the demographics is towards younger people, sub 30 segment, sub 35 segment, but the thing which I think when we talk about numbers, we while focusing on those big numbers that this demographic is 25%, this is 30%. In a country like ours, with the population like ours, even if some demographic segment is 5% or 10%, it's huge, right? Like even that 10% of 140 crore is a big number. uh, More than a population of a lot of countries, right? So when you're talking about, thinking about expanding or growing your business, you could also, I mean, while going about to grow in different places, different cities, or maybe you're thinking about introducing new, products, you could keep in mind the different demographics which exist in our country and the sheer number of each of those segments to think about new, growth opportunities. So yeah, that's again, this aspect again makes India completely unique, and of course, a young generation gives, a large number of young people, of course, gives it's a great advantage because consumption is higher, and people who understand new products, new services, new technology, they are, of course, higher as compared to an aging population. Anyways, moving to the next point, which is income level, right? So, even in terms of income, there's a huge, income gap, of course, which exists in India. I'm not discussing this from a political or a social angle, but the implications for business people being that, uh, in a country like ours, we have, I mean, I think last year we had some 160 or 170 billionaires in India. Maybe the number has crossed this year, not very sure. Versus, uh, when we talk about poverty line, like 6%, I think 6 to 7% of our population is still below the poverty line. So, that's the kind of uh, range which our income levels operate in. So, very important to understand, right, that what are for the product or services which you have in your mind, or if you're thinking about growing your product or your company from a certain base, what is the kind of disposable income you're looking at, you're expecting from your customers to have, right, for them to be able to afford your products or services over a sustained period, right? And uh, this is closely linked with the next factor also, which I want to discuss, is the price sensitivity. So Indian consumer, I think as a nature, they're so fickle, right? So for some things they are very, certain things they are very rigid, that they want to use the same brand, right? But for, I think for most of the consumer products, any one of you who has, in that stage of your business where you have sold to a certain number of customers, I think they would get this point better. The price sensitivity, even amongst the better off, amongst the affluent people, is there. Again, not for all product categories. Maybe that can be a separate video, that for what kind of products or services, what kind of categories are consumers highly price sensitive, and where are those, what are those segments where they don't want to spend a lot of, decision power, क्या लेना है क्या नहीं लेना है, ठीक है लेना है तो लेना है, irrespective of price. But anyways, so uh, as a business, when we are doing the strategic planning for our sales and marketing, right? For how do we increase our sales, or how do we do our marketing, having a having an understanding of the kind of behavior which is expected from the segment which you want to target, that understanding is very important. And also, when we are talking about, as I said, price sensitivity, whenever you're thinking about increasing your prices, or so for example, you're growing, you suddenly realize that, oh my god, I've grown, my top line has grown, but my operation cost has increased and my bottom line now has reduced. Let me increase my price, and my bottom line will increase. No, that doesn't happen in India. And that is why we have so many different sub brands, right? Like even the big FMCG companies, they have, even within the same product category, they have mass brands, they have premium brands, maybe they have luxury brands. So have a very clear understanding of what kind of customer segment you want to target in terms of income levels, and be very cautious of the fact of the price sensitivity of the Indian markets. The next point which I want to discuss is the times which we live in. And I think, of course, this is not just in India but globally, right? With social media, with communication being so easy, with ideas spreading so fast, and ideas spreading to all sections of society, the the expectation of consumers from brands, and especially when we talk about the the segment with a higher disposable income, which by the way has higher price elasticity, or you can say lower price sensitivity, is rapidly evolving. So a good example for this would be the recent consumer expectation of brands to be sustainable, right? They want to know what are the green uh, policies of the brand. Are they creating pollution? What kind of pollution are they creating? What is their supply chain? Are they sustainable with in terms of animal testing? Are they doing a lot of animal testing? Are they cruelty free? Are they sweatshop free? So when, as a business, as a startup owner, or as a business owner, right, you're thinking about any, I think, and for your marketing play also comes, it comes into picture. Whenever thinking about marketing your products and services, you have to also be cautious of the, you know, uh, the evolving society which we live in. And again, why India is unique in this aspect also, because of the different segments of our population, which is created out of the unique permutation and combination of the above 5 factors. The evolution which is happening, it is also not happening in the same directions, right? So one section is evolving in another direction. Maybe the middle classes, the masses are evolving in another direction. uh, Evolving society is an abstract topic, and maybe I think it's more relevant for people who are selling, creating brands, products, services which are, consumed very closely, directly by the end customers. But a very interesting concept nonetheless for the customers, for the founders to keep in mind while thinking of their long-term sales, marketing, and of course business growth strategy. So while these are the 6 aspects which I wanted to discuss in, to just give an overview of how the Indian markets are unique, there are many more, aspects. Uh, uh, and not just in terms of, these 6 key points, but also other things, as in how good are the distribution structures, how good is the value chain of any one state versus the other, how strong are the channel partners, right, in one state versus the other, uh, what kind of festivals are celebrated at what time, right, what are the um, maybe holiday patterns in different parts. So all these very, very subtle, small, big factors, trust me, they play a role when we are thinking about designing our uh, marketing campaigns, when we are planning our sales targets. And a lot of these, if you when you operate and scale to new regions, you will of course experience on your own. But I think having, even if you are at a stage where you're doing MVP and planning for your long-term growth, having some understanding or some, consideration for these factors in the long run will help you make better planning and better decisions for your business. Thank you for watching.